I'm Tricia Sanborn. I'm the grant manager for the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County. I just want to welcome everybody here today to talk about the ARPA organizational grants that are currently open for application. And just to give you a little rundown of what we'll do today, first I will introduce you to a couple of very special people. Then we'll walk you through the application. We'll give you an overview of the review process, including the opportunity to look at and ask questions about the scoring rubric. We'll introduce you to the grants committee, and then we'll leave time for you to ask questions. And just so that you're aware, this session is being recorded in case you need to go back and review any part of it or share it with your committee. I know there are a couple of new organizations on the call today, so I just wanted to give you a brief rundown about the Arts Council. We are approximately a 30-year-old organization, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to provide leadership, funding, and support that promotes artistic excellence and historic preservation, and to advocate for resources and education that expand arts opportunities for all, helping us to create an enriched and healthy community. We envision Anne Arundel County as a place where artists are inspired and creativity thrives, where arts and culture bring people of all backgrounds together to enrich, find, and celebrate our community. And now I would like to introduce you to April Nyman, who is our Executive Director of Longstanding. So here's April.
Hi, everybody. I think I know most everybody on, and anybody that we haven't met, welcome to everyone. These grants, we're really happy you're joining us to talk about this opportunity for these grants. We've had this opportunity during COVID to receive federal money, and all because our county executive values the arts. The county executive has allocated funding 2 years ago, and now again this year, and hopefully next year, to get us all through this difficult time in the pandemic. So we're very fortunate to have that support, and one of his best supporters is his Director of Special Projects, who I've had the pleasure to work with for several years now, Jennifer Purcell. And Jennifer really understands grants because she's had a background with nonprofit and grants. So she's such an art supporter. We're very fortunate to have her. And I'm going to turn it over to her to say a few words now.
Thanks, April. Yes, I'm Jennifer Purcell. I've had the pleasure of working with April in the Arts Council since 2018. When County Executive Pittman took office. And I don't think I ever told you, April, but part of my background too is coming from an artistic family. Painters, voiceover artists and video production, woodworkers, tile, mirror, I mean, all kinds of stuff. Totally skipped a generation with me. So anyway, I get it. I certainly understand the challenges that artists face even outside a pandemic. Right. I'll say it never crossed our minds in a million years that we'd be dealing with something like this when we started. And I think we can agree the past 2 years have been rough. And April mentioned the county funds. We've received federal dollars to support businesses and nonprofits and families, but we rely on several partners across the county and several agencies to help us with identifying those who need assistance across all sectors. And the Arts Council has really been a true partner in this effort. We couldn't have done it without them. In 2020, I guess it was, the Arts Council distributed $1 million to both individual artists and nonprofits. And this year they're managing another $500,000 for us, which this grant program is a part. So I want to thank the Arts Council. I want to thank you as members of the arts community for bringing your vision and your passion and your talent to Anne Arundel County. We really do appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We really appreciate everything that the county executive and his wonderful staff have done for us. Like Jennifer said, we did get money in 2020 and we were able to distribute it to 77 independent artists and 54 arts organizations. And this year, like she mentioned, we have $500,000 from the county, and we also have an additional $50,000 that we received from the Maryland State Arts Council that are being allocated toward these grants. We've divided them up into 2 cycles. We just completed a cycle of independent artist applications, and we received 113 this time, which was almost 50% higher than we did in 2020. So we are assuming that once those are funded and they are now in the review process, that we'll have about $275,000 for this cycle of organizational grants. If you've looked at the guidelines, you'll see that the eligibility criteria are there. And who is eligible this time around? It's a little narrower group than it was last time. We are able to fund 501c3 organizations and organizations and small to medium nonprofits. And where we're drawing the line is at $750,000. So if your organizational budget for fiscal year 2022 is less than that, you'll be able to apply. Going over the timeline, the application is already open, and I hope a lot of you have taken a look at it. It will close on March 20th, 2022. After that, it will go to committee review. We'll talk about that a little more later. And then the award determination letters will be sent to recipients by April 20th, 2022. We'll be making grant payments within 2 weeks of that time, and we do it via ACH transfer. You'll see the fields for it in the report, in the application when we go through that. There is also a required final report, which will be available in the end of May, and that will be due on June 20th, 2022. We need a little time to be able to provide the county executive with an overall final report from the grants. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me while I do this. And we're going to walk through the application together. I think it's often helpful for everybody to see. Okay, so you see our website. We're going to go to the grants page. You can find it through grants opportunities, or you could go directly to the submittable portal on there. If you scroll down, here is the description and the guidelines. Please make sure you read the guidelines thoroughly. And then click on apply. For those of you that have not applied to us for a grant since September of 2021, you will need to set up an account. If you have a submittable account, possibly from applying for another funder, you'll already have an account, but you'll just need to make sure that your information is all current in it. So anyway, this is the application. It's all one page. You'll scroll down. Again, you can reach the guidelines here. We will be posting the video of today's session here, so you'll have those resources available. Then click apply. So this is your eligibility. Do you meet these criteria? Do you provide arts programming to the county? Are you a 501c3? And is your budget less than $750? Yes. So again, you have an opportunity to look at the guidelines here. I need to update that, and we'll again add the link to today's session. This is all basic demographic info. If you have an email, if you have a website, please include it. If you don't have the website, we welcome your Instagram or Facebook pages, but you can't put it into this field. Make sure that you give it to us elsewhere. We use those to link to in things like articles, press releases, lists of grantees on the website, that kind of thing. Your 501c3 number. Here's a drop down with the types of artists that you employ. Yes, you can do more than one. Then you have the narrative questions. They're fairly basic. Here we're just looking for a list of programming or operational modifications that you had to make in 2020 and 21 as a result of the pandemic. If you're a performing arts organization, you can just list the events that were canceled, postponed, or if they had to be moved to a virtual platform. The next question, we're really looking at how the lingering impacts of the pandemic affect your organization's current programming. Then we, here we want you to demonstrate need. Tell us why you still need funding to compensate for those impacts. Then we want a thorough list of all your funding to date. This can be PPP loans. It could be MSAC grants. It could be our gap grants, but just provide us a list of compensation. If you received a venue grant, a shuttered venue grant, make sure you list that too. Then we have your total operating budget for fiscal year 22, which will determine your maximum request. Here's the table. If you fall under $100,000, you cannot ask for more than $5,000. You can ask for less, so feel free to do that. But just stay within the guidance of this. Here's your request, which will again ask you to include in your budget. Then we have mandatory uploads. We do need your IRS letter of determination. Your operating budget, which to simplify this, we're asking you to submit this in the format that you are currently using, rather than try to shoehorn it into our format this time. Then we need a brief request budget. How are you going to spend the money? This is not a project grant. This is operating funds granting. So it can be staffing, it can be utilities, it can be paying your creative artists, it can be any kind of operating overhead funding. Then we need a W-9, and it needs to be created within the last 12 months. If you do not have a current one, go right online to this link. You can do it there. If you are doing one now, do not go to one of the areas that charge you for it. There's a bunch of companies online that will charge you to create one. They are free at this link from the IRS. And last, we have 3 options for optional uploads. It can be anything that you want. It can be a video file. It can be newspaper articles, anything that proves your need, anything that talks about what you did during COVID and why you would need this additional funding. Then for our organizations, we're asking for your banking information. If you are a community arts grantee or you received a mini grant and we have your current information on file, you do not need to fill this out. But if you are new to us, please do complete this information. And last, we have an electronic signature and your date. And then you just press submit. Does anybody have any questions about the application? McKenna, if you want to unmute everybody, that'd be great.
I have a question.
Sure.
I tried to do multiple entries for what kind of arts do you does your organization employ?
Mm-hmm.
And it only lets me pick one.
Well, let me go back and then I'll check on that.
Okay. I just checked it. I checked it this morning and then I just checked it again. It's
Okay.
still not working.
I'll check on that and make sure it's working correctly. So, anyone else have questions about the application? It's pretty simple and straightforward. Kaylin, you have a question?
Yeah, Tricia, is there a time, like a grant period? Are you expecting expenses to only be from January through June or our fiscal year? I didn't see anything in there about a limit.
There's not really a specified
Okay.
grant period.
Okay.
We do have you completing the report at the end of the county's fiscal year.
Okay. So we can use it for expenses that we've already incurred this fiscal year.
Yes.
And that's fine. Okay. Just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yes. So,
Tricia, this is Steve Rybick. I have a question.
hey, Steve.
Hey, is there anything that we should avoid in our application, you know, as far as descriptors or things that you do not want to see in our application?
That's an excellent question. Offhand, I can't think of anything specific. Did you have anything you were thinking of?
No, you know, last time you and I talked before about, you know, that we can't have this for fundraisers or anything like that. So I'm just wondering generally, what are you not looking for? You know, what would actually just, you know, kick us out of the application process or evaluation?
You are a community arts grant applicant.
Right.
So I would go by any funding that would be eligible for a community arts grant would also be eligible for this grant. You know, it's interesting. I've been writing a couple of NEA grants and they do allow fundraising funds.
Hi, I'm Martha Blackstall, co-chair of the Grants Committee and a board member in that respect. I think that as we review the applications, in terms of fundraisers that one would have normally had, and the Arts Council itself has been through this, if that fundraiser was canceled, was put online, was impacted in some way by the COVID restrictions and didn't yield what you normally yield in a good year, I think that's a legitimate thing to put down, because a lot of entities' fundraising capacities have been limited in the last couple of years. Is that part of the question that you were asking?
Yes, that's part of the question. One facet of it. Yes, thank you.
Is the other direct fundraising costs?
That's right. If you don't have the cost, then you have to net it out to see what the amount that would normally be available to you for activities that you didn't get, what that is, and that we can take that into consideration. But it's really important that people be absolutely honest in these things, because we don't want to be in a position later on when the county comes back to us and said, this particular group was inappropriately funded. And we're seeing so much of that. We're not accusing anybody of anything here. We think you're all honest, but we don't want to end up in a situation where anybody gets into a difficult position. So please be as straightforward and honest, and we want to help we don't want to cause any further problems.
Thank you.
How's that? If there aren't any other questions on the application, I'll just take you guys over to look at the rubric. This is what the grants committee will be using to score. It's all done internally through the software, but this will give you a pretty good idea of how you'll be scored. It's 4 sections, each of which is worth up to 3 points. And again, it's the narrative questions that we looked at in the application. It's looking at the modifications that you had to make over the last 2 years because of COVID. In the first question, the second is how it's still impacting your current operations and programming. The third is why you still need additional funding. And then we're going to look at your budget and your financials and look to see whether there is still strong evidence of need for additional funding. Any questions on that?
I would like to say again, this is Martha. I would like to say again that our goal in the grants committee is to award this money. There's nothing in it for us to not award this money. So as carefully as you can present your loss and the effect on your organization, that will make it easier for us to agree that you're worthy of a grant and we can proceed to the next application. Would any of my colleagues on the grants committee like to make a comment as well at this time? Because we want to be as fair and as straightforward as we can be, and we want to be able to make these awards.
This is Tony Spencer. I'm just happy that we have the opportunity to touch the lives of these artists, because I know as an artist how we struggle sometimes for various reasons. And so what Martha said earlier about being up front, that's very important, so we can just get through all the bull to make sure we're on target. But I'm so happy to see those on board who have been contributing to the community all these years. And when I send mine out, the notices out, I try to send it to people that don't know that this is out here. And I'm surprised to see maybe 3 or 4 people who responded back who never knew. So along with receiving these folks, would you please send it to folks? I know it seems like you're competing, but the point is, there's other folks who need to hear about this, and we can't reach everyone. So thank you.
Patricia?
I just wanted to just piggyback on what you said, Martha, that we want to give this money away. And Tony, what a great point that you made about sending out this information to other arts groups. I've sent a few also. So anyone else on the call, if knows anyone that is in need, please send the information, and thank you very much.
Yes. So that's our grants committee. Is there anybody else on here?
No.
No. Well, wrapping it up, just a couple of final notes. You will, after you receive funding, you will need to do the final report, as we've mentioned before. And you'll also need to follow the funding attribution guidelines. They are linked to in the guidelines for the grant, and they are available on our website. Martha, did you want to just touch on DIA for us?
Yeah, let me just say a couple of things. First of all, the Arts Council is very much appreciative of the county executive's work in finding these additional funds that we can use to support the arts organizations community in this county. That is really very important to us to be able to help you. That's what our job is. Secondly, the Arts Council, and you can look at this on our website, we are very committed to supporting all kinds of organizations in this county. We have a very clear diversity, equity, inclusion statement that is on our website. We are committed to all kinds of organizations that have a need for this kind of grant. And please help us reach out to organizations that could use our support that we may not have contacted because we don't know them yet. So please remember that we are supporting DEI. Any work that you're doing in that area, we'd like to know about. And thank you for participating with us to help the quality and the strength of arts organizations here in the county.
Tricia and April, may I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay, the need for men on the council is something I'm not sure how far you've advertised that, but we have a need. I have, I think, 2.5 years left on my term. Dr. Debbie Wood, I know you're on here. I don't know if you think it's a conflict of interest, and you can talk to April or whatever, but you know a lot of folk. And I would ask you all to reach out to people to ask them to consider. And these are the 3 things in my criteria. I'm speaking for Tony, okay? But to have the interest, the capacity, and also the reliability. It sounds good to be on here, but it is a responsibility. And so those people who probably are already in the game doing something that can help us take this further.
Thank you, Tony. And I'd like to just do one last little bit of updates for you all. First of all, make sure you sign up for our emails. Changes in the program will be going out about that through our email process. We have a gala coming up. It's not going to be called a gala. It's going to be called Paint the Town, and it's going to be a really exciting fundraising event on May 14th. And we hope that you all can attend or participate in some way. And also, we are starting a DEIA discussion series. So a lot of you probably came to the first one that we had in January, and look for those coming in the future. So anyway, are there any last questions? If not, you know, I'm always available. My email and my phone number are on the submittable page and on the grants page. So feel free to reach out if you have questions. Thanks, everybody.